Welcome to another edition of the Postgame Wrap. I'm Jarret Johnson, and Texas Tech fell to TCU in Fort Worth today, 34-18. It was a tough game throughout. It was a tough game to watch, especially offensively. Both teams were extremely inept in the first half. I think they combined for about 150-something yards. TCU led 10-3 at the break. There was obviously much more scoring in the second half. Texas Tech was able to hit some big plays in the passing game. And TCU relied on Max Duggan to do his thing, and boy, he did. There are a lot of things that went on. I feel like the offensive line didn't play well. Special teams, there was 2 blocked punts. They missed a field goal late, which I'm going to get to here in a minute. They kicked the ball out of bounds. Their punt coverage team was terrible. So special teams really struggled, all right? And defensively, though they gave up a lot of yards to Duggan in the end, I think defensively, again, they played well enough to win, to be competitive tonight. But offense really struggled. And then there were just some really difficult to process and understand coaching decisions. And I think I could talk about several of them, but the main one for me, and this is after play calling, the play calling was difficult at times to understand. But Matt Wells' decision, bizarre decision, late in the game, everyone's saying with 2 minutes and 44 seconds, and that was eventually, but it was actually, when that play ended, Tech had over 3 minutes left on the clock. 3 timeouts. It was 2nd and 4, deep in TCU's territory, and it was a 9-point game. Offense was rolling. There was some momentum, and out of nowhere, and you could tell even from the TV, the telecast, that it had to be explained to quarterback Henry Columbia because he didn't get it either. A son of a coach, by the way. No one got it. I asked Matt Wells several questions about it after the game, and I still don't understand why he decided to put the entire fate of that game, basically, in that situation, in that context of the game, on the shoulders of a field goal kicker and field goal unit who had just converted its first field goal of the season in Game 7. It's difficult to comprehend. He missed it. Game over. Just like that. Just Tech was rolling, looking like they were going for the score. 3 timeouts left. Plenty of time left. So it's very... It was a terrible decision. I'm never going to be... My opinion's never going to change to think that this was anything other than a bizarre coaching blunder. And Coach Wells, he said, and I understand, he said they needed 2 scores. We know that. You needed 2 scores. But there is a possibility in that game where you don't even have to put it on your kicker at all. Say you score a touchdown, then somehow you get a breakaway play where you score a second touchdown. I mean, that is possible. Or a punt return. I know that sounds highly unlikely given the results, but I mean, something could happen where you don't put the fate of the entire game, this effort that you've made all week, on one of your weakest position groups right now, if not your weakest position group. So that was very confusing. Coach Wells said several times, he said Don Williams of the Avalanche Journal asked a question about it, and I asked a follow-up saying, basically, when did you start thinking about making this decision? Like, is there an assistant coach who says, hey, you may want to do this, or do you have a chart or something? And he said he thought about it as soon as they started the offensive possession. They thought about doing that. So they were kind of going into that possession thinking about it. Okay, if we get in the red zone, let's kick a field goal instead of trying to score a touchdown. He hearkened back to a game against Utah when he was at Utah State where they just kept throwing up lobs in the end zone and lost instead of, in his mind, prolonging the game. And he said, I think on 3 different occasions in the post-game press conference, that maybe it was a down early. It was 2nd and 4. And he said maybe it was a down early. So when I got a chance, several questions later, to ask him a follow-up, if you remember back earlier in the season, and I can't remember what game it was, but I asked him about, I think it was Texas. At the end of regulation, when he called a timeout, he forgot what down it was. He thought it was 3rd down, it was 4th down. So he said, by his own admission, that he didn't know what down it was. He got it wrong. So, given the fact that he said 3 times tonight in this post-game press conference that perhaps it was a down early, I had to ask him as respectfully as possible, did you know what down it was? And he said yes. Simply, yeah, he knew what down it was. So, in terms of special teams, he said, that's something they know they have to work on. They're going to. But bottom line is, it was really disappointing, I think, the way they lost. I feel like Coach Wells and his decisions, he's not helping his team have a better chance to win. He's hindering it. So I don't know how you defend that. I like some of the things that they've done with the roster, but tonight was a turning point in my mind in terms of some of those decisions. I think also early going for him on fourth down, I think you could argue the play call was terrible, execution was terrible, but when they got stopped on fourth down deep in TCU's territory, at that point, it was really a dogfight in terms of just scrapping for any kind of, even a first down up to that drive. Tech had gone 3 and out like 5 times in a row or something like that. So to me, you take the points in that scenario. But I think you could argue that. I'll never listen to an argument about that decision late in the game. So bottom line is the Red Raiders fall to 2-5 on the season. They're 1-5 in Big 12 play. They played Baylor, who last I checked when I was recording this was actually playing very well in their game. So against Iowa State, which is a surprise to me. So maybe they're getting their act together. And that's who Texas Tech plays next week. They host the Bears. And at this point, I don't think you can chalk up any game as a win for sure. And I think you have to consider it. Every game is going to be tough from here on out. You have Baylor, and then you have a bye, and then you have Oklahoma State there, and then you finish with Kansas at home. This has been a tough season. Some of the decisions kind of highlight that point for me, and they're going to go back to the drawing board. We'll see what they do next week against Baylor. I think it's a big game. I think you have to get that win going into the bye to have any kind of hope for feeling, any kind of hope of redemption basically for this season. So we'll see what they do. But we're going to have a lot of content from this game. We'll have content throughout the week leading up to the Baylor game. So with that, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.